Progressive Steps to Healing. This is found on page 19 of the book Shadow Play by Linda Belden Corder. It was copyrighted in 2016 by Linda Belden Corder and Tate Publishing. It was also copyrighted in 2011 and is found as a resource on the Hope of Survivors website. So, progressive steps to healing from clergy sexual abuse. Number 1, cut off avenues of contact with the abuser. This is vital to be safe and to heal. Cut off avenues from both the abuser, anyone in his family, his or her family, anyone who has been influenced by the abuser and is still believing the lies and distortions of the abuser or influenced from them in any way. This may involve leaders in the particular religious body or organization. This may involve people at high levels in a college or any number of other organizations. This may involve many states in the United States. It may involve many provinces or communities in other countries. So it gets really complicated. But this is the first level of safety to heal. Number 2, recognize this was abuse. This is important, and we need people who support us, who also recognize that this was abuse. It's going to be much more difficult if, on a daily basis, if we're around people who don't recognize that this was abuse. And if that is the case, then there are some resources within the Hope of Survivors Network to help to break this apart, and it would be wise to have those people read those resources and become aware of that. Number 3, talk to a counselor. The focus is to break the silence and tell your story. As victims, we need to have a counselor who can be as neutral as possible, to let us sort this out and hear what we've gone through, and not pressure us to needlessly, not to pressure us unless it's a safety issue. And it's also wise that the counselor not have a strong agenda one way or the other regarding accepting or not accepting religion or the beliefs that we have, our own spiritual beliefs, as they need to be there for us. And the counselor also needs to recognize that whatever we sort out spiritually that's an important area of our healing, and they need to be able to support that. Number 4, unmask the lies of the abuser. You did not cause the abuse. It was not your fault. This is difficult to sort out. There are many lies, many distortions, many ways the abuser has twisted truths that are spiritual truths that are taught from the community that we've participated in. They twist values that are there for our family, for our society, and everything is done to twist and support their abuse. They also will twist counseling. They've maybe read some stuff or even taken classes in counseling, and they would maybe have provided a counseling role as part of their abuse. And so they have many, many levels of lies and distortions. Number 5, it's important to recognize that you have the same rights as anyone else who comes to God, who attends church or seeks help, or who participates in the type of spiritual community and ceremonies that you are a part of. Often victims feel they don't have that right, and because they've accepted and feel like they're at blame, or they don't feel safe in those areas, and that's difficult to sort out. But you have the right, the same right as anyone else, to seek spiritual support and help within the spiritual preference and beliefs that you have. Number 6 is to make amends in healing and recovery. And the focus here is to empower victims. It's a good idea to seek suggestions because as victims, we tend to blame ourselves. And this is where it really helps to have some people who can be neutral and supportive of us. And as victims, we have areas where we feel we need to make amends, and we have a right to believe that and have those feelings and to do what we feel we can do to make amends. And not everyone can hear that or understand that. So then, step number 7 is that 12-step recovery is helpful. And there are many sources where we can find 12-step recovery. There's a balance in the 12-step program, and it's a way that helps you sort out through the 12 steps a lot of different things about the balance between what you're responsible for and what you're not responsible for. Helps you sort out what you believe spiritually. And throw out the things that were used to abuse you if you need to. Just it's a healthy program. You can find 12 steps for addictions, drug or alcohol addictions, eating disorders, any number of other things, codependency. So there's a lot of good information there, and there's a lot of self-help books available. And there's a way to have a sponsor if that's something that you feel that you want to do. So it's also a way to break isolation. So number 8 is to continue to unmask the lies, distortions, and misrepresentations of the abuser around religious or psychological teachings. This is very deep and shows how their abuse affects us as victims around religion, spirituality, counseling, psychology, many, many other things. So we will need to continue to unmask the lies and distortions and misrepresentations of the abuser around these things. Number 9, listen to the Creator, empowering to victims to study, pray, and hear God's voice and will for themselves. This is vital. And so for many communities and recovery programs, it's easier and safer to identify our God or higher power as creator. And that gives us time to sort out what we believe for ourselves, because whatever truths were there in the spiritual community or the religious community we participated in, they were distorted by the abuser, and it takes time. So we need to hear ourselves, and we need to learn to follow what we hear and what we have found in our own study and prayer about what is the will of our higher power for us. Number 10, the call to help others. This is a call to service. It helps us to be able to heal by giving back to others in some way, shape, or form. And this pulls us out from our own pain and helps us release that pain. And it's much more powerful of a step than those 5 words in that step. Number 11, directly address church PTSD. Not everybody understands that church PTSD is a specific type of PTSD. Victims need support in this area from people who understand this type of trauma and how it affects in many, many ways with going to church, going to the religious community that we were involved in, and in other areas of our life. Number 12, have a healing connection to spiritual recovery community and or church to heal the loss of quote-unquote church, end quote. We need to find a way to do that, and this can take time, and sometimes some people live their whole life not doing this, because this type of abuse affects many, many things. So there you have it. Closing this with some prayer that this will bless you. And once again, check out the Hope of Survivors website. And also you can check out the website for Shadow Play and find some resources there.